We just learned a whole bunch of stuff about arrow functions, and really the only way to make it sink in now is to do some practice. So I've got two exercises lined up for you, and how this is going to work is I'm going to explain it, and then you go off and do it, and then you come back and continue this video, and I'm going to show you how I would have solved it. You can sort of compare your answer. There's obviously going to be way more than one possible answer, so if it works for you, that's probably a pretty good solution. So this is the actual problem that I had. I'm in the exercise folder for the arrow functions here. And this is a problem that I had once where I actually wanted to sum up a YouTube series and say like it was like this many hours, and I didn't know of like a nice way to do that. However, YouTube would like list all of my videos here, and they would have a data attribute of data dash time equals 5 minutes and 17 seconds, 7 minutes and 24 seconds. So what I realized that what you could do is you could select all of them, pop out the data time, parse the minutes and seconds into seconds, add them all up, and you're off and ready to go. So you could do this in one big reduce function, but just since I want you to get practice with working with arrow functions, I've sort of stepped through it where you can use filter, map, and reduce to get the total, and that's going to really help us. So go ahead and do that one. I'll show you exercise 2 as well. This is a little bit easier. We've got an array of numbers here, and use the filter method to in an arrow function to create an array of numbers that are greater than 70. Pretty straightforward, but should just be a nice quick one-liner for you. So good luck with that, and I will see you back in a couple minutes. Hopefully you had a good time with that. Let's go through it together. So the first one was select all the list items on the page and convert to an array. So select all of them. Say const items equals, we'll use document.querySelector all here. And we're going to select them. How should we select them? There's no like class or ID or anything on there. The one thing that it does have in common is that it has a data dash time attribute. Okay, good. So I'm going to use an attribute selector, which is square brackets. Anything with a data time set on it, I want to select it. Now, actually, I'm running in Chrome Canary, and probably by the time you watch this, it's going to be available in standard Chrome and all your other browsers. But in some of the older browsers, this items, if I console log it, it looks like an array, but what is it? Ooh, it's a node list. And a node list doesn't have methods like map and filter and all of the things that we're using. So it's not a true array. It is just a node list. And while this is changing, not all browsers support all of the methods that we want to use. So in order to convert it to a true array, we can just wrap the entire thing in array.from or any of your other favorite convert to arrays things there, and that is going to make it a true array. Watch, give it a refresh, open it up. See, now the prototype is an array, not a node list, but we still have all the items there. Good. So now we have this items variable here, and let's move through all of the ones. So first one is filter only for the items that contain the word flexboxes. Like maybe I have some jumbled videos in here and I don't want to add up the ones that have Redux on them, and my selector wasn't smart enough to look for anything with a class of Redux because we didn't have the data in that situation. So we'll say const filtered equals items dot filter, and we can use an arrow function here where we are only going to return it if the items text content includes text content is camel case there, includes the word flexbox. So that should, if we take this filtered variable, let's go all the way to the bottom here and console log filtered, because we're just going to be changing this filtered variable as we go. Let's see, we had 20. Now we've got 15. Good. So we've got our 15 items that have been filtered down. What I'm going to do is I'm also going to just put this on its own line because we're going to be chaining these filter, map, and reduce functions on each other. So I just like to have them each on their own line. So next up is map down to a list of time strings. So this is just a list of like elements, and we don't need the entire element. We just need that one piece of data, which is the data dash time attribute. So how do we do that? Well, map will take in a list of things and convert it into a list of other things. We want to take in the item, and we want to return the item.dataset.time. Why? Because that's going to give us data dash time. So now I think if we refresh, we should now see an array. Error on 40. item.dataset.time. Oh, I got a semicolon. I shouldn't have stopped my line there because we're chaining these line over line, so I shouldn't have that semicolon there. There we go. Now I've got an array of still 15 items, but now we have a string of the time, which is the problem in our next one, which is map to an array of seconds. So we can use map again, and let's just say we'll call it time code. And that we can't just use an implicit return here like we've done here. We don't have curly brackets. We don't have the return keyword because we're just doing one quick thing. However, here we need to use a full block because we're going to do a couple things here. First of all, we need to separate the string into minutes and seconds. So I'm going to make a variable called parts, and that is going to be timecode dot split, and we're going to split it on the colon, right? So I think if we just say console.log the parts, let's see what we got here. Time code. Again, make sure you got your camel casing correct. Here we go. So we're getting an array now of 2 parts. First piece is going to be the full number of minutes. The second piece is going to be the full number of seconds. Now, again, this is still a string, and you know that we can't do math with a string. So we can actually just work on this. This dot split returns an array. So why don't we just map that array immediately and take that part and return parse float of that part, right? And what that's going to do is going to take in string of 8 and return number 8. It's going to take in string 22, return number 22. So now if we refresh, look at these, they just turned blue, and that means that they are true numbers, no longer strings, right? Like that was a little arrow function inside of an arrow function here. And that's the beauty of these arrow functions is you can just do quick little things like that on a single line without having to really worry about like setting up an entire function for us. So that's good. I'm going to remove this console log here. Now we've got a array of minutes and seconds, and we need to just return from this map. We need to return the parts 0, the first thing, times 60, because we want to return seconds in total, right? Plus, we just want to return the number of seconds. So parts of 60 plus parts 1. Now our time code should be, nope, we've got an array of just seconds. Final thing we need to do is reduce to get the actual total here. So reduce takes 2 arguments. First one is going to be our function, which will give us the running total and the actual seconds number. And then it also, that's a function here, and I'll leave that right there. It also takes a number to start with. And even though we don't technically need that in this case, let's keep it there just so we know that we're starting with 0 and we go on. And then from our arrow function, we are going to just return the running total plus the seconds for this current one. I'll give that a save. 6,132 seconds. That's where we are at. I probably would have another function that would take in the seconds and then convert that to hours, minutes, and seconds and display. But that's a whole nother exercise on itself. That's really what we wanted to do there is we just did one thing. We took this huge list of DOM elements, converted it all the way down, distilled it all the way down just to a number of seconds. So that is the first one. Let's take a look at the second one now. Exercise 2 should be a piece of cake for you now. That's just one line of code. So what we're going to say is we're going to say const large equals numbers dot filter, and we want to return the number if it is larger than 70. If not, then we don't want to do anything. So we get the number and we run a function where it says number is greater than 70. So if the number is greater than 70, that will be true, and therefore it will make it into the large. If not, it won't make it. So we got there. Bam, good to go. One-liner. I'm really happy with that. So hopefully those exercises were good for you. Let's keep going with the rest of ES6.